The old car sat in Gene Hackman's driveway, silent and forgotten, until the police pried open the rusted door. What they found inside wasn't just the remnants of time, but a chilling vault of secrets. Eerie audio tapes, crumpled notes stained with age, and photographs documenting Hollywood's untold truths. Did Hackman ever really retire? Or had he been quietly pulling the strings all along? Beneath layers of dust, the Toyota Celica sat in Hackman's Santa Fe garage, a relic of speed and secrecy. The once thrilling roar of its engine had long since faded, but the stories it held had not. After Hackman's passing, his family decided to sort through his belongings, unknowingly unlocking a piece of his hidden past. The moment the garage door groaned open, the outside world stood still, because what they found wasn't just a car. It was an unspoken chapter of a Hollywood legend. The Celica wasn't merely a vehicle, it was Hackman's escape from the artificial glitz of Hollywood, a machine that once carried him through the 24 hours of Daytona in 1983. A racing decal still clung to the windshield, edges curled, but its meaning unmistakable. The leather gloves resting on the passenger seat, worn, stained with motor oil, told of hands that once gripped the wheel with unrelenting force. And tucked beside the gear shift, a faded photo of Hackman in his white racing suit, a defiant smile cutting through the dust and sunburn. This wasn't the face of an actor. This was the face of a man who lived for speed. Fans could recite every role, every Oscar nomination, every sharp-witted interview, but few knew about Hackman's double life. Some whispered that the track was his true calling, a place where the noise of Hollywood couldn't follow. Others believed that racing was the only place he ever felt alive, where fear and adrenaline danced on the edge of every sharp turn. He never flaunted this passion, never sought headlines, but when he stood in that garage, hand resting against the car's cool metal, the fire in his eyes spoke volumes. And then the world found out. News broke like a Hollywood scandal. Gene Hackman, the secret racer. Headlines painted a portrait no one expected. The Celica became more than just a machine. It became a time capsule of a life few had ever glimpsed. But as the media frenzy grew, the car remained still, a silent guardian of the roads Hackman never got to conquer, the unfinished races only he could see when the city fell silent. The real shock, though, was waiting inside the glove compartment. When authorities opened it, they weren't prepared for what lay within, an artifact so priceless, so deeply intertwined with film history that it sent ripples through Hollywood. There it was, the original script of The French Connection, 1971. The film that solidified Hackman's place among the greatest actors of all time. But this wasn't just any script. Scrawled across the margins in hurried blue ink were Hackman's personal notes, raw, unfiltered insights into the very scenes that made cinematic history. One scribbled remark stood out: too tight at third corner, loose in grip, full throttle. It wasn't just about acting, it was about living the moment, embodying the chaos, the kind of dedication that made Hackman not just an actor, but an unstoppable force. But that wasn't all. Beneath the script, preserved like a sacred relic, was a letter from director William Friedkin, a letter that told of a gamble, of a bet on an actor the industry doubted. To Gene, the bravest driver in Hollywood, who never knew fear, Friedkin had staked his career on Hackman's ability to bring Jimmy Popeye Doyle to life, and in return, Hackman had given everything to the role. But was it just a role, or had he been chasing something else all along? Hackman had mentioned this letter once, decades ago, in a rare 1993 interview. When asked why he had kept it, he simply smiled. "It's not about acting," he had said. "It's about the road, the grit, the smell of burnt rubber. That's the real award." And now, decades later, as journalists scrambled to analyze every word, one truth became undeniable. Hollywood had seen Hackman as a legend of the silver screen, but in his heart, he had always been something else entirely. A racer, a renegade, a man who didn't just perform high-speed chases, he lived them. But the discoveries weren't over yet, because when the driver's side door creaked open, another secret was waiting. One that had nothing to do with fame, nothing to do with films or racing. A thin, yellowed folder sat near the door panel, its title handwritten in Hackman's precise, almost obsessive script, Pacemaker Log. Hackman had always been a man in control. But what the investigation team found inside that folder was something no one expected, a meticulous day-by-day record of his heart's every beat, every adjustment, every anomaly. Not hospital records, not doctor reports, his own painstakingly detailed notes. For a man who had spent his life pushing. February 17th, a day that should have been like any other, yet held a secret so chilling, so inexplicable, it left even the most skeptical minds questioning everything they thought they knew. Numbers flashed across a tiny medical monitor, a heart rate chart, an electrical pulse frequency, and a brief but haunting note from Gene Hackman himself. Slight, irregular pulse detected. Review with private physician immediately. No panic, no urgency, just a cold, clinical observation that carried an unease no words could fully capture. Hackman was never one to fear the unknown. He had survived high-speed car crashes on set, braved the unpredictable skies in his own aircraft, and walked away from a brutal motorcycle accident. But this was different. This was a man who had spent years meticulously tracking his heartbeats, documenting every skipped pulse, every tremor, every anomaly. And now, that obsession with his own mortality had become an unsolvable puzzle. As details of his private medical logs leaked to the press, speculation spiraled out of control. Was it paranoia, or had Hackman uncovered something sinister? Reports surfaced that he had been part of a secretive group of high-profile cardiac patients, all raising concerns about potential technical glitches in early pacemaker models. But no concrete evidence ever emerged. The more people dug into his records, the more questions arose. What had Hackman suspected? What had he feared? And why had he continued to write, even in his final days, with an intensity that suggested he knew something the rest of the world did not? Then there was the car, parked near a remote trail in the Sangre de Cristo Mountains, untouched by time yet heavy with an eerie silence. Inside, a CD player remained frozen mid-track, Debussy's Clair de Lune, a song that carried an intimate history between Hackman and his wife, Betsy Arakawa. That night, decades ago, when she first performed it on stage, Hackman had sat motionless in the front row, listening as if the music were the only thing that mattered. And now, the same melody, inexplicably paused at its most breathtaking note, left an unshakable sense that someone had deliberately stopped it. Investigators scoured every inch of the vehicle, uncovering details that only deepened the mystery. Dog hair covered the seats, tangled in an unusual layer of desert dust. But not just any dust. Forensic analysis revealed it came from an area far beyond Hackman's usual routes, a place off the beaten path, known only to locals. Had Hackman, or someone else, driven the car there before returning in silence? If so, why was there no record, no witnesses, no trace of the journey? And why had Charlie, the Hackman's beloved dog, been found lifeless at home, his presence lingering in the vehicle like a ghostly reminder of something unspoken? Then came the discovery of the notebook, a worn leather journal, its pages aged by years of ink and contemplation. The final entry, dated February 16th, just hours before Hackman's last known movements, sent shivers through even the most hardened investigators. If this is the final stretch, I have no regrets. I only regret that Betsy will have to go alone. A farewell? A prophecy? Or something far more cryptic? Those who knew Hackman best recalled his reluctance to replace his aging pacemaker, his whispered remarks about preferring a quiet end over hospital machines and sterile walls. Had he sensed what was coming? Had he chosen his own fate? Or had someone else played a hand in it? GPS records showed Hackman's car making one last trip, a winding drive up a remote mountain road, the very same path where he once joked with Betsy, "If I can't drive myself home one day, leave me here. It's more beautiful than any cemetery I've ever seen." The car sat there, motionless, for 17 minutes. No surveillance cameras, no witnesses, just an old man, his thoughts, and the weight of a lifetime behind him. Did he sit there, watching the last sunrise he would ever see? Did he write those final words before turning the key one last time? And then there was the trunk, a collection of ordinary items, screwdrivers, a faded first aid kit, an old wool blanket. But beneath them, something else. Documents, photographs, recordings. A cache of secrets that, if exposed, could shake Hollywood to its core. Hackman had spent a lifetime observing, collecting, knowing. He had seen the industry's darkest corners, the hidden deals, the whispered threats. And now, in death, those secrets rested in the hands of those who feared them most. The ones in the shadows, counting the hours, waiting, hoping that the truth would never come to light. But the truth, like a heartbeat, cannot be silenced forever. The car remains, the documents exist, and the final act of Gene Hackman's life is not yet over. The world is still watching, still listening, still waiting for the moment when the silence breaks and the secrets finally speak.